Welcome to Wild Questions. I'm Sabbath Kapahu, and this is the moment we take each week to have the conversations we know are important, but don't always talk about. This is about the stories that matter behind the questions we ask. I'm joined by my friend, colleague, and CEO of Wild Leaders, Dr. Rob McKenna. Now, Dr. Rob, people have been asking you about the topic that we're gonna discuss today. People are saying you've done TEDx, you've done your TEDx talks, you speak in public all the time. How do you become a better public speaker? But what I want to know is we're talking today about whole impact, speaking for whole impact and not for followers. Tell me what that means.
Yeah. By the way, I'm kind of fascinated by the way Zoom makes your teeth look whiter. I don't think
Oh,
my teeth are that white. I don't know. Anyway, that's a side note. But Sabbath, yeah, I do get asked this more and more often. I know that it's become a bit of a popular topic. When you ask about whole impact, I think it's very interesting because um, so often I talk with people who just want to be a speaker and how it shouldn't be like this huge epiphany that it's not about that. So what does it mean to actually impact people through your speaking is kind of what this is about. And when I say whole impact is even entering into some of the tensions that people actually feel when so often the things in our culture that get the most followership tend to be pretty simple oversimplified. So when I say a whole impact is inviting people into the tensions that and maybe not focusing so much on audience satisfaction
mm,
as something that's true and real for people, which is an interesting tension. I face it all the time.
yeah. So I want to know too, when did you know that you were going to be a public speaker? Tell me about the moment or the story. I've heard you say that you knew you were going to be a public speaker in eighth grade.
I don't think I said that,
Oh,
Sabbath. And here's the thing is I'm not sure I even am still today. But I think there are people out there that certainly have mastered the craft of public speaking. But I remember the first time that I really remember kind of a salient specific moment was when I was selected by my eighth grade class to be the speaker at our eighth grade graduation. And I could recite a lot of that talk today. I don't know if it was any good. It was just but it did sort of was my first taste and like practice of trying to do that. Boy, was I nervous. So anyway, that's where it started. But I hope people will feel I'm not a master of this. I can tell you I'd love to share what works for me. And what I think is important in the moments where I've had a chance to do this and then go from there. So
okay, perfect. So, well, I spoke at my high school graduation, by the
did
way.
you?
Thought about
Nice.
that in a while, but
Did not know that.
I can, I, that's probably a moment that mattered in that specific. So interesting. Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
So we're going to talk about 6 things that we can do to become a better public speaker. Tell me about that.
All right. It's 6 things. I have a list
Okay.
of things when they ask for my advice. Now these are all things that are more about the preparation than the actual giving of the talk. And I think we're going to do a follow-up about the actual giving of the talk. Like what do you do on a stage? But here are my 6 things that I try to ask myself. And by the way, my dad was just a master public speaker and is. And so a lot of the things that just rubbed off on me, I grew up watching him do this and things that he valued that sort of I hope and aspire to be doing those things. But the first thing is this is why are you there? So often we go right to what it is we're going to say, and this is the question of purpose. What is your purpose in giving this particular talk? And we know from our research that you and I have been over and over and over again that not only is that important for the audience, but it's important for you for maintaining your composure. I can't tell you how many times I've shown up where we had a literal contract for like what the speaking engagement needed to look like. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out whether the clicker works on stage. I mean, in front of an audience of 2,000 people, and the clicker's not reaching the slides. And so I'm like, that's why a lot of times I don't use any kind of slides because we had that moment But the reason why purpose is important, if you know why you're there, it will center you when those kinds of things happen. And so ultimately that purpose is, it frames everything for why you're there. And as a part of that is this is a big reminder. This is not about you. I tell myself that this is not about me. This is about the audience. This is about what it is that I hope and I aspire to them hearing from and feeling invited into in the message I'm about to deliver. And that's a big one because we tend to, especially early on, we make it all about us, about our anxiety, about what it is we want to say. This is about them.
Hello.
Um, what's that?
And hello.
Hello. Um, Number two, who is there? Who is there? Why are you there? And who is there? And the who is there is an important part, typically of framing purpose. So like even as a team, when we go into a speaking engagement as a team at Wild Leaders, we'll ask ourselves before we answer why we're there, we'll say, so who are the leaders we're working with? Who are we speaking to? And so understanding their context is important. It may not change what you actually say or your talk, but it will center you in their context. And I describe it this way: is speak for them, not at them or to them. So it's understanding who's in the room and trying to invite as many different perspectives to relate to who's in that room. My dad had a trick where he would go to places and he would actually have studied something about the context that they were in. It could be something is that they see every day, a sign on a door as they enter their building, or it could be anything which would give him a sense of connection into what, not for the sake of like pretending he's connected, but for the sake of something authentic to what's going on in that room. The third thing is this: what is your point? This is a big one. I will never master this. I will continue to get feedback on this. If you were to ask someone after your talk what your main point was, they should be able to tell you what it was. Like in even in specific words. So for that to be true, for them to be able to do that, it's likely a simple truth, a simple point that you repeat. Again, something I saw my dad do so often was a repeating message or statement that would come up, and he would actually say the statement and then pause. And so um, that's one way to make sure that that point is clear. And I've been guilty in the past of trying to do too much on a stage, and so having a simple point that you're trying to make that repeats can be really, really powerful. Number four, where is the vulnerability? It's a question. So my questions, these are the 6 first questions. Why are you there? Who is there? What is your point? Where's the vulnerability? Vulnerability is something that you open up and invite. So it's both your sharing of something that you don't normally share, and typically invited in the form of questions. So this is why at Wild Leaders, we ask these questions a lot. We'll say, what would change if? What would change if there was purpose guiding your next step forward? What would change if you were surrounded by mentors, cheerleaders, role models, and people who give it to you straight? What would change, if you knew where you're going next? What would change if you were leveraging your experiences of the past? Like it's these kind of questions. I don't have the answer, and so they're an invitation to people's vulnerability to share a little bit more than maybe they have in the past. So where's the vulnerability? A little bit about that. And for many of us, vulnerability is our superpower. And it's vulnerability is difficult because it means that there's an openness to someone actually using it against you or to hurting you with what you share. And so true vulnerability is slightly risky. Um, Number 5, where is their hope? Sabbath, where is their hope? And hope is so often not the result of being told you have hope. Like telling people, if I would got in front of an audience and I said, you all have hope, you know what I mean? It's like, but inviting them into the hope that you have, because of what it is you're describing. And again, that connects into number 4, that vulnerability. And then last one is this, number 6, where's their truth? Where is their whole truth in what it is you're describing? And this may sound a bit extreme, but if there's not something in what you're describing that you would die for, do you have any business being on that stage in the first place? Um, you know what I mean? Like it's a risk. And so these 6 things, why are you there? Who's there? What is your point? Where's their vulnerability? Where's their hope? Where's their truth? I'm not saying this is a formula for getting 1 million followers on some social media channel, but I do think it's a formula for a whole impact. That I hope that that's helpful for folks that in centering your next speaking engagement.
Super helpful. Um, And what I hear you saying throughout all of those things is, it's about the impact that you're having on the person who's listening, and an invitation into the story that they're walking through, and how you on that stage are a part of that story in that moment. That it's not about you, but it's about where they are and how you're inviting them into that. That's so good. We are going to talk and ask some questions the next time about what exactly do you do once you get on stage. Some really practical tips and tactical things that you can do as a public speaker. So we'll do that next time. And I wanted to leave this wild questions time with a question. We have this thing, a deck of cards, and I just wanted to ask you guys so you can answer, shoot us a response if you want. And we just want to know. I'm just going to pick from one. This isn't rehearsed. And I'm going to ask you, what character virtue in you is a strength, but if overdone, becomes problematic for you? We'll see you next time.